Hi, everyone. We're going to do a quick audio check and then we will get started. Thanks so much.
Good morning, everybody. I actually need a few more seconds. We're just a couple minutes past 10, and give us another few seconds and we'll get started. Okay, another quick sound check here. I think we took care of that echo. All right. Good morning, everyone. This is Andrea Lawrence, and I want to welcome you all back to another Cooperative Marketing and Advertising Program webinar. So today, our team will share exciting updates for the next fiscal cycle. I know we did that once already. It's been a few weeks or a lifetime ago, depending on how you look at it. And I just ran up my stairs. So deep breath. We are going to get started with some quick webinar logistical notes as usual. So to begin today, we scheduled this call for an hour, although we really anticipate our content lasting not more than half that time. And we would like to use the remaining time to respond to questions you might have. There are a lot of folks on this call. We're happy to virtually see everybody or have you in the room. So please use the control panel and the question menu there to let us know what kind of thoughts, ideas, concerns, or anything you're having, and we'll talk about those at the end. As you can see on the slide, we have waived the viewing in real time requirement for applicants. So one of the things that has changed in the last few weeks since we last met on March 3rd, yes. Okay, as the recorded webinar and a PDF of all these presentation slides, as usual, will be available along with those from March 3rd on the Industry Partners website at nmtruecoop.org. So don't worry about taking tons of notes. We'll have all this information available to you. And again, use the chat feature or the question feature to submit to us today in real time, or email any lingering thoughts you have to coop.marketing@state.nm.us. We'll take those through Thursday and then have an updated frequently asked questions document on the website by Friday afternoon. Okay, so let's get started. We have today two major topics to cover. First is the Google DMO program. Those of you on the April 3rd Master Series call heard Secretary Schreier and our Marketing Director, Aaron Ladd, talk about this Recovery Readiness Initiative. So we'll go into more detail about that. And then we will hear from Media Director Sameen Cohen about two recovery stimulus packages that we are adding to the media menu plan and in part to Flex that feature a special match of $2 from the tourism department for every one of your own invested. And so we're going to get right into it. So Erin, I am turning over to you to talk about our first topic of the day. Thanks.
All right. Thanks so much, Andrea. As mentioned, my name is Erin Ladd, and I'm the marketing director here at the New Mexico Tourism Department. So again, as Andrea mentioned, you might have heard a little bit about this on the April 3rd webinar, but let's get things going, and I'll give you all a few more details on the Google DMO program. I'm going to go through some of these bullet points to get into the few of the nuts and bolts that you can expect for this free for you program that we're encouraging our DMO partners to engage in. All right, so what is the Google DMO program? Let me stress right off the top, this is a free program for you guys. This is something that we're setting up to make it free for our DMO partners. We've been offering this Google DMO program via our co-op program for this last fiscal year, so FY20, and we've been really happy with its effectiveness. This is a program where our media partner is Miles Partnership, and what they're going to do is that they're going to work individually with eligible applicable entities to make these entities' collective Google platform as complete and as compelling as possible. Basically, we all know that travelers start with search, and it's important to optimize that community and destination level presence on sort of the world's biggest search engine. So what this is a roughly 4+ week program, depending on the timing of the transmission of some necessary documents, with an application process as well. And through that time, Miles Partnership will be walking communities through the steps that they can take to make their Google presence visual and dynamic. So let's talk a little bit about why this work is important and why it's good work to tackle right now. So we chatted with Miles Partnership about some of the successes that they've seen with their clients since they've been shepherding a lot of folks through the wild world of like the vast array of Google products. And here's a little bit what we wanted to share with you guys, a little bit about what they had to say. Businesses with updated Google presences are nearly 3 times as likely to be considered reputable. They are 70% more likely to attract location visits, and a totally like OMG worthy 50% more likely to lead to a purchase. Basically, the bottom line is how you put your foot forward here really matters. And it matters for inspiration and it matters for conversion. So just wanted to talk a little bit about why this kind of work matters right now. Okay, so this work is broken into 3 main categories. And what those categories are is the destination audit, the activation and cleanup, and the community support and training. So to start, Miles will run an analysis of your community's existence on Google platforms. And what this means is this is sort of an overview of how your particular community is sitting within things like the Google Travel Guide, the Things to Do function, Google Maps, top sites, and more. If you've ever done a little bit of searching for a particular destination, you'll notice that these are some of the very first things that come up when you Google any particular destination. Then we move into cleanup mode. So here's where Miles Partnership will suggest edits to hit key benchmarks for the Google products algorithm. So the clincher here is to improve the overall percent completeness of your community's presence. So what that means is Google as an entity really favors the completeness sort of top line of a community's presence, and therefore ranks those Google products higher because they are of higher quality and they're delivering on a better digital experience. So Miles Partnership not only does this for the written info of your presence, but also the photographic info. They will flag photography that's not attractive or particularly representative and give each community the opportunity to replace that photography. One asterisk here, it will have to be some owned photography, but we will talk about that a little bit later. The last work phase is community support and training. So what this is one-on-one training for your personal community's progress. And you've got access to a training webinar. You're given a dedicated Google Pixel phone that's tied to your account, and you're given a pretty detailed review of those audit results. Additionally, you, the DMO, are given tokens so that unverified businesses can claim their business listings within 90 days. And again, that's to get the overall experience of your community in the Google ecosystem sort of higher ranking and better performance. They'll also give you access to something they call the Local Marketing Academy, and that's for all kinds of different digital marketing content, and that's for you and for your community. All that to say is that we want you in this program. That's why we're offering it for free. We really believe in it. We think it's a great way to work on Google presence. We think it's a great way, and we're going to talk about this here in a few minutes, to link into some like really robust search opportunities that we'll be offering up to you. But we really want you in the program. This program is designed for folks who are working at the community level because it really is macro. It really is macro for a large, not large size DMO entity, but a large area of space, and it really is on the sort of the macro umbrella level of Google experiences. You'll see that our registration deadline is April 30th, and if you have any questions on this at all, we are happy to work with you on any hurdles that you might foresee for your DMO. For example, we do have a provision for the application. You will need to be able to supply a list of up to 200 businesses for your community. However, we don't want this to be a stumbling block at all. If you feel as though you can't come through with an Excel document of this particular info, please let us know, and we will work with you to find some solutions to this. Again, we really genuinely want this to be as inclusive of a program as we can possibly make it. In terms of other bandwidth and workload considerations, I want everybody to take a look here at what this program is sort of asking of you. The aforementioned Excel spreadsheet. You can see these meetings, webinars, and talks sort of listed along the side here. And then there is the consideration for photos that you'll be asked to level up. That said, we think this is a great way to allocate some time and attention. Of course, I can't say it enough, it's Google. They're the biggest internet company in the world for a reason. This is a very worthwhile space to be doing some work in. So that is the story with the whole Google DMO program. We are happy to answer any questions. But now that I've been chatting a bit too long about all things Google, I am gonna pass this back on over to Andrea.
Thanks, Erin. That was great. Very excellent, encapsulating exactly what the Google DMO program is, why people should be doing it, what the benefits are, what the time commitments will be. And so really appreciate that overall description and everything. And so before we go into our next topic and hear about new co-op options, I'm going to quickly review program basics. Anyone on the call who needs quick review. So here we go. First, we have our eligible entities, tribal and local governments, along with tourism-related nonprofits. Remember that the private sector can play a valuable role. We talked about this a lot on the original webinar. So when they contribute up to half of your request amount, you can effectively quadruple your investment. Destinations and local assets are all appropriate advertising content. You can choose from a menu that leverages our relationships with media vendors or work with your own, both. And placements, remember those must be outside that 60-mile radius. So what's new? We have made a couple more important program changes since we last met, 6 weeks and a lifetime ago. So I'm going to quickly, from bottom to top, everyone probably already knows, but I'll say again that the previous deadline to submit your application has been extended by 4 weeks. Those applications are now due May 22nd. With that, phase 1 payments for initiatives for fall/winter programs has also been delayed 4 weeks until August 1st. Please note that the deadline for spring/summer 2021 programs has not changed, so you'll have now phase 2 partner payments still due December 1st. And I know everyone's anxious, and you're here to hear about these new media menu options. They include digital packages with which we can be more nimble and conversion focused, really important right now as the world shifts on a daily, if not hourly basis, and search engine marketing management and optimization that will maximize impressions and clicks. So Simine, please tell us more.
Thanks, Andrea. So in designing these MMP recovery options that we're going to be talking about, we wanted to focus on 3 core ideas to make these programs and packages accessible to everyone. So the first component is that all the options needed to be turnkey. So you'll see that everything that we've included here requires very little in the way of production budget and is really low on the overall creative inputs, meaning it's very quick to get going and very little out-of-pocket cost in the way of creative to get going into these package options. The second is that the formats of the ads are really great for longer form or more conversion-based copy or content. So what that means is that it's good for showcasing either specific offers or events, which make them ideal for partnering with private partners to stretch your dollars even further. So in formats where you can showcase a particular travel package, partnering with private partnerships like hotels and restaurants, maybe throwing an event, basically having that longer form of copy plus more imagery allows you to do that. The last component is that all of these opportunities are very response driven. So they're rooted in engagement and conversion, eliciting action versus more traditional awareness tactics. So getting into the menu options, the first one is a very new to co-op offering altogether. It's a managed search component. Again, these are matched 2-to-1, which is one of the biggest benefits of doing this option, and it does require the DMO opt-in as a prerequisite. If you are not eligible for the Google DMO program, but you're still interested in this program, definitely reach out to talk about, if it could still make sense for your entity. But the details here are that this is a 3-month-long program, and you will be able to opt in multiple times in the fall and spring, which you can indicate at a later date. And in terms of the campaign itself, it's a traditional SEM campaign run on Google for 3 months, run for you. Obviously, the benefit here after having done all the Google DMO work is that Google will continue to reward and kind of work harder with our SEM campaigns when all of the back-end infrastructure from the Google DMO program is complete. And then that performance should be further enhanced by layering on some Adara audience data, where we'll be able to more precisely find in-market travelers by leveraging the Adara data there, and then having somebody manage it for you. If you have an SEM campaign already going, and want somebody to manage it for you, this is a great option to get the media management and data layer with a great match rate for a low out-of-pocket cost. But if you prefer to manage it yourself or have somebody else managing it for you, you can also put this into the flex menu option, and NMTD is still going to honor that 2-to-1 match rate for you. The next option is a tiered package that includes digital and social, and these packages and pricing are for 1 month each, but again, you can opt in multiple times. These packages all include items that have already been discussed and detailed in the regular MMP menu. So if you were on that original webinar, there is no new component here. It's packaged together here in a way to focus on recovery and focus on conversion and matched at 2-to-1. And that's the big difference from the original MMP outline of these components. But just to walk through them a little bit here. In the bronze option, you'll have a Facebook carousel ad where you'll be able to feature up to 5 points of interest, like hotels or a combination of places and events, as well as an Adara prospecting and retargeting banner campaign. The targeting for these options will be from the geos on your opt-in menu selection, as well as some additional lookalike targets determined by Facebook and Adara algorithms that will optimize based on performance. Then moving into the silver option, we'll add in TripAdvisor as well, with display banners targeted to New Mexico content pages or things to do pages. And finally, in the gold package, you'll get a dedicated e-blast that can feature multiple events or points of interest, or just, again, a general package offer that you could put together with your region or other destination partners to really incentivize travelers to come to your destination. So the main idea is that we're trying to reach people who are looking for travel, people who are in-market travelers, ready to take trips, and moving away from the kind of general awareness into reaching those who are most likely to convert and giving them a message of why your destination, why your event, why your nonprofit, and of all the places they will be traveling for the first time after this is over and we move into recovery, making the case for why you. So for more details on any of these partners, feel free to flip to their respective pages in the main MMP PowerPoint or webinar. And don't forget that if you have any additional questions about any of these partners or program, add them now in the question chat box or bring them to your media consult meeting. If you haven't already, you can get those media consult meetings scheduled through your co-op concierge or through Celia, who's going to be taking you through the next slide about our updated co-op timelines.
Okay, thank you so much, Samin. I appreciate that. All right, so here's a big picture view of our timeline, including some key changes to our original timeline we shared with you back in March. As Andrea mentioned, our new application deadline is May 22nd. To accommodate for this shift, all media consults have been moved and are now April 30th to May 7th. To help you make this application process easier, we are offering many ways for you to access support prior to the May 22nd deadline. And I want to make sure we clarify how and when you access this support. First, you can get technical support on your opt-in workbook with our co-op concierge. Now, through application close, you can schedule a co-op concierge appointment. Please note, this appointment is for instructional purposes only. The second opportunity is that you can participate in a media consultation with our media director and our co-op support team. Please note, you will need to be familiar with our fiscal year 21 media programs and have a near completed opt-in workbook and pre-consult questionnaire before your media consultation. We just want to make sure that we make the best use of your time during this scheduled call. All this information and all the links can be found on the resources section of nmtruecoop.org. Here are more changes to our timeline happening June through July. Award decisions and notifications will now take place the end of June. Please mark your calendars for our new date of July 14th for the Execute with Excellence webinar, including instructions on how to use our brand new media site. Your production summaries and instructions will also be sent out mid-July, so please, just a heads up about that. Okay, so finally, our big news, as Andrea mentioned previously, and a big important note is you now have until August 1st to submit your partner payments to New Mexico Tourism Department for your fall and winter MMP programs. Your spring and summer payments are still due on December 1st. And then finally, June 30th, 2021, your Flex partner tracking and impact reports are due to New Mexico Tourism Department. And again, I just want to reiterate, if at any time during this process you have any questions, if you have questions about your media consult or even your co-op concierge appointment, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to help and be of service, and you'll have my email at the end of this webinar. And I'm going to go ahead and pass it back to Andrea. Okay, so it looks like Andrea may be having some audio problems. So we're gonna go ahead and just, are you there, Andrea?
I'm here.
Oh,
I'm here.
awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, so now I'm really gonna toss it.
Trying to keep everybody in dead air. Okay. I said all kinds of great things. Brilliant. You missed some. Sorry. So I'm going to recap, and I thank you, Celia and Samine, for doing an excellent job of talking about the new media menu options and the updated timeline. So Erin, thanks for providing details about Recovery Readiness Program for Google through Miles Partnership. We got some great questions about that, so we'll get to those in just a minute. Again, highlights of this, key points: free to destination marketing organizations need to apply by April 30th. And despite the fact that we would love to have infinite space and budget, more than anything, those are actually limited. So we'll be working within those constraints to help as many people as possible, and hopefully all. Samine did a great review of the new 2-to-1 managed search and social digital recovery stimulus options. Samine also queuing up some questions here for you about that. Celia, thanks for talking about the timeline. Everyone is now aware multiple times of the May 22nd application due date, and that's accessed by logging into your account at nmtourism.smapply.io. So your one-stop resource doc shop is always open at nmtruecoop.org for DIYers who want to look for things themselves. Again, this presentation recording and presentation slides will be up later today. And for others who prefer help from an actual human, schedule, Celia mentioned, your one-on-one media consult and or your concierge appointment for technical assistance with the opt-in workbook. We have a question about the opt-in workbook, and we will get to that. So finally, you heard Celia mention that July 14th, this will be our third annual Execute with Excellence webinar. Yes, another webinar, but that's how we do things now. So we are just gearing up and couldn't be more thrilled to talk to you all on July 14th about Campaign Drive, the latest and greatest version of our brand asset site with really sleek, streamlined, in-platform, co-branded templates, and so more on that to come in a couple months. And so that's what we have for you, and we want to see what questions you have for us. Erin, I'm going to start with you. We've got some questions about Google DMO, and so we have some folks on the call who are with nonprofit organizations, maybe statewide organizations like a Main Street, or someone who represents a group with a combined interest, and they're wanting to know if they qualify for Google DMO or if that is only for cities.
Yeah, that's a great question. This program is really designed for entities that are working at sort of that community/city level. And it's because it has such sort of this umbrella style reach that's hard to scale down to say individual entities or attractions. So that's going to really be the experience difference between like a community going into the Google DMO program as opposed to an attraction or an entity going into the Google DMO program, which really just overall, you know, for the product isn't a great fit. So that's kind of where that particular appropriateness line really sits in terms of the Google DMO program. That said, you know, if you have any specific questions about your entity or your role in your entity and how that could work with this program, well, obviously we're super happy to address those things. So we can always have that conversation very specifically with different entities about whether it's appropriate to go into the DMO program.
Great. I think that's super helpful. And then we have some questions all around the inventory of businesses. So folks asking about whether participating businesses have to be tourism related. Are they any kind of business in the community? Do they have to have official websites of their own? And where, if a community has more than 200, where would they really focus their energy, say on would you suggest businesses that have Google presence and are bigger, like stakeholder per se, or should we be focusing energy more on folks who just have Google presence that really needs to up its game? What are your thoughts there?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Ultimately, this is for tourism-related Google products. So tourism-related businesses, obviously where each community or DMO draws that line, that can be a little bit of a subjective thing. Obviously, Miles Partnership will be there to sort of shepherd anybody through that process. But say you're a larger entity that's going to have way more than 200 businesses. The ones that are sort of tourism specific, I think, are really obvious low-hanging fruit, particularly if they're sort of ripe for embetterment through Google products. So that I think is the sort of like appropriateness level that we're looking for. That said, many communities will be way below that 200 business threshold, and really what Google is prioritizing from an algorithmic perspective is the percent completeness of the representation of the businesses in these communities. And that percent completeness is going to look really, really different for a lot of different communities, which is why the audit portion of the Miles Partnership Program is really, really important. In terms of, assessing for the purposes of that Excel document that we're really wanting to kickstart that Google DMO program, I would say, like I said, the ones that are sort of like ripe for reinvention are really going to be high on that priority list. If Miles were to run an audit, those particular businesses that say don't have phone numbers that are up to date or don't have websites at all, or something similar, those are the kinds of things that this particular audit would flag, and would flag for things that are sort of being ripe for reinvention. So this is definitely like where the subjective work and the partnership work of being in this partnership with Miles Media really comes in, because we can always work with whatever the realities of your particular community are, and we can take a look at what those business sort of like potholes are out there that exist, and decide like this is worth it, this is not worth it, this needs a photo, this needs a website, like that sort of minutia level work that's going to get us to that completeness score within Google, I think is really the goal here. So it is genuinely kind of subjective work, but if I were to give you sort of a format of thinking about it, that's kind of where my head is.
That's great. I think that is very helpful. And while you were doing that, we got a few more questions in about Google DMO. So
Sure.
Sameen, hang tight. We'll be getting to you. And I think to some extent you have in part at least answered some of these questions. Also, they may be questions that we punt over to Miles Partnership, but I will run through them regardless. So in terms of, again, ongoing with the business inventory sheet, some DMOs have businesses that are already listed and featured in Google Travel Guide. So it sounds to me like as long as those businesses are complete, that would not be a priority. Is that right?
Yeah, there are going to be businesses that are super conscientious about what this program already kind of brings to the table, and their Google profiles are already going to be super robust. They've got great photos, they've got great information, and they're going to be super complete. You're absolutely right. Those only count in favor of you, right? Like those are great things to have. They're already in your pocket. This would be for assessing where the rest of the holes are and trying to get the necessary information into the Google system that would up their game as well. So really, it's designed to sort of like take credit for the ones who are already doing a great job out there, and also figuring out which entities, which experiences can be done a little bit better. So it can only help to have those folks in your pocket who are already doing their Google presence super well.
Perfect. Absolutely. We could all use more folks in our communities that are doing Google presence really well. And I think we have more of them than we used to, based on kind of the roadshow. I think it was almost a dozen, if not quite, communities that Brianna Gallegos, our PR and Industry Relations Coordinator, and again in partnership with Miles, went around the state and visited a number, like I said, half a dozen communities in the north and the southern part of the state. And I do think have upped our game in that area already, and this is just going to continue to go in that direction, which is really awesome for all of New Mexico. And we do have a question about, many smaller businesses don't have full-on websites of their own. They use Facebook. And we know, of course, how important that is in terms and being a search engine unto itself. But how is this? Let me know if this is something you can answer, or again, if we punt to Miles on this, that how does that play into this program?
Sure. And I think without getting into the specifics on how Google ranks individually listed websites, because again, I think that's like going to be pretty subjective work. Absolutely. I think this is a reality for a lot of small businesses in the United States, and in New Mexico specifically, where maybe there's not a proprietary website, but a lot of people have Facebook presences that they really consider sort of like their home base of communicating with customers. And that's not particularly a bad thing. And to my understanding, we can triple check this with Miles partnership, but I do believe that it can be used as an entity's, as a business's website. As long as it's that proprietary URL that you can link right off to, it totally makes sense to me.
Yeah, absolutely agree. That's excellent. Let's talk for a second about images. 75 images for a place, like Albuquerque is not going to be enough, and many of our partners around the state don't have anywhere near 75 quality images that they own. So we don't want that to dissuade anybody from participating in the program, obviously. We looked at your slide that had, various check-in points and webinars and one-on-one conversations. So question about images and when they might need to be supplied.
Sure. Essentially, this is part of the audit. This is part of the grand audit that goes on once the DMO comes into this program. And this is a lot of what they work with Miles Partnership on. Images, obviously, like we live in a really visual culture. Images really change hearts and minds about out there, particularly in the travel space. They're super important. And this is essentially a way to audit the image representation of your particular community in the Google sort of ecosystem, and then decide, like, these are not great images. I would like to replace these images with something better, and then we move forward from there. So they do need to be owned in proprietary images to the DMO, because obviously we don't want to run afoul of any particular like copyright or trademark infringement. But other than that, essentially this is another sort of notch in that particular audit process to try and get that overall sort of community photographic representation sort of up to par. Now, 75 is only the ceiling, right? If your photographic representation, comes in way below that, if you don't have that many photo assets of your particular entity, 75 is just a recommendation. And hey, if the photography for your particular destination is already super amazing, then maybe you don't have to do much photography swap out at all. But I definitely don't, I would consider it much more of a pro than it is a con. Obviously, we'll work with any entity if this also feels a little bit like a hurdle or a stumbling block. We definitely don't want it to be. We want it to be an opportunity.
Super. Okay, I'm giving you like a Toastmaster badge of honor for being on the hot seat for so long.
No worries.
And
Anytime.
I'm going to shift attention. Excellent job answering everybody's questions. And I can't promise that more won't go in, but for right now, I'm going to toss this over to Samin to talk a little bit about, I actually have two questions the same. So some concerns coming in from DMOs about where the traffic, whether that will be driven to New Mexico True or newmexico.org, or whether that will go to the local website, partner website.
Sure. That is a good question. I believe the traffic will go directly to the partner's website, but Andrea and Aaron and Katie, correct me if that is a mistaken understanding.
Nope, you're absolutely correct, Samin. This is Katie. And so as a part of that process, you'll indicate specifically what URL all that traffic should be directed to.
Okay. And Samin, question about Adara. Can you talk a little bit more about, again, you know, thinking back to what Aaron did for us with Google DMO, what is it? Why is it important? How's it used? What are the benefits?
Sure.
And is it appropriate for every partner who may be on this call?
Sure. So Adara is at their core a media partner, and they have a unique access point for data. So at the end of the day, they are a distributor of ads on kind of any website where they find the right audience. And their unique spin on finding the right audience is through their partnerships with travel booking engines. So things like hotel chains and airline sites, and they have data agreements with those partners. So they're able to see when somebody starts to take actions that will put them in a category of what we would call in-market travelers. So they're actually looking for a trip to take. And Adara uses algorithms to basically understand the audience that is most primed to travel to a destination like yours based on their search patterns on those other travel websites. And then they would serve them a banner ad featuring your destination or your event to elicit response and try to pull them into the funnel of completing and ultimately taking a trip.
Okay. Very helpful. Never stop learning. And one more question for you. No, actually, I think you're off the hook for the moment. So we have some general application / opt-in workbook questions. So Katie, why don't you talk to us about the opt-in workbook and what's changed about it since we've introduced the new stimulus recovery?
Sure. So you'll be happy to know that the opt-in workbook now does reflect both of these new 2-to-1 match opportunities on the MMP menu. And you'll see those have been clearly identified in the digital section for both of the programs that Samin talked about today. And then she also mentioned that if you would like to access that 2-to-1 match for SEM, but you already have an ad agency or someone else in-house managing that for you, you can choose to get that 2-to-1 match or apply for that 2-to-1 match for SEM under the Flex program. So you'll see that in the updated opt-in workbook as well. So that's available now from the resources page of New Mexico True Co-op.org. And to make sure that you're using the right one, you'll see that the file name has the date of April 2nd. So that new one has actually been sitting out there since the tourism department's April 2nd webinar when you first heard about these 2-to-1 match opportunities. So as you're preparing your draft opt-in workbook in preparation for your media consult, make sure that you are using that updated ones so that you can tap into these special 2-to-1 match recovery stimulus opportunities.
Thanks. I'm so glad you mentioned that and reiterated. And so the entire media menu is still available. It is all of the access to those slides, the details of each option, the quick reference guide, everything is at nmtruecoop.org and has been there. And you'll see things that have been there since March 3rd, things that were updated when the Master Series happened on April 2nd. And please, I'm just going to say it again, make sure you're using the latest opt-in workbook, which has the April 2nd date stamped on that. It will auto-calculate those new 2-to-1 options. And so I think we've got that. I have a couple, spare me one second. And so just a quick last minute response, which is that the new options are 2-to-1 and everything previous remains at that 1-to-1. Again, that'll auto-calculate in the spreadsheet, but it is the new stimulus recovery options. So if you're looking to prioritize those to get the most for your investment, actually that's a really good segue. Erin, I'm going to shift back to you for a minute, and Katie, to maybe tag team a little bit on high-level strategic planning. There is like an unprecedented, and that's an overused word these days, but an unprecedented amount of uncertainty happening. We don't know what's going on with events and gatherings. We don't know what's going on with budgets and lodgers tax. We just, meetings are getting postponed and canceled and going online. So like, can we have a quick volley with our few remaining minutes about how people can think about these programs, these options, these initiatives in a time when our foundation has been really rocked?
Sure, absolutely. And I can sort of jump in here. You're right when you say that the word that unprecedented is something that we're hearing a lot of these days and once in a lifetime and everything else. So it is a good question about how to plan when we feel like we're in a tough position to be able to plan things, right? So just on the programmatic side, I can just talk to what we're doing on the programmatic side. Obviously, we're scooting back our deadlines, and this includes a lot of our deadlines. We're scooting back this application deadline to May 22nd in hopes that, more weeks gives us more clarity. We're scooting back our phase 1 partner payment deadline to August 1st. And that is, as everybody knows, or as those of you who have been in the co-op program before know, that the August 1st deadline is really for fall winter programs. A lot of our programs end up being spring summer programs. And when you consider that particular deadline isn't until December 1st. And that's really the first time sort of money is exchanged in order to make these co-funded media placements. So trying to visualize this year as being sort of in the boundaries of what we can do, is being as sort of like scooted back and as flexible as we possibly can. Obviously, in a situation where many of you will not be sort of exchanging or fronting money with us until the December 1st deadline. It's also worth mentioning that obviously this is an FY21 program that'll take us all the way until June of 2021. In some cases, like August placements in 2021. So we're talking a pretty long time out. So it's really sort of a planning for not just this time next year, but more than this time next year. So so hopefully, you know, we will have some sort of normalcy back to our marketing and our lives and tourism by that point. And if any of these obviously are still question marks, that's really what we have the media consults for. We really want to talk with you all about the opportunities that are available for FY21 in that media consult. So we're here to listen. We're here to talk to you guys about options. We're here to talk to you about, if you don't know X, then we recommend Y. That's really what those times are set aside for. Overall, when it comes to the applications, which is sort of why we obviously have the media consults, we can't award what you don't request. So definitely want in those media consults to get sort of like the smartest, best plan for you, for your community, for your entity, and move sort of as confidently as we can forward into FY21.
Great, really useful, good advice during obviously an incredibly difficult time. And I would invite in our last few minutes any and all of our other presenters to chime in on that topic, add anything that you'd like, or anything else that's bubbling up as we get to the end of our time together. And so you all don't talk at once. I guess we'll go like this. Samin, anything to add or to close on your part?
I just think as much as anybody can, applying for the 2-to-1 match options obviously is so beneficial as kind of a low-hanging fruit with pretty small out-of-pocket budgets as a great way to maximize the dollars for co-op this year.
Perfect. Thank you. Celia?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that there's an April 30th deadline for Google DMO, and I just want to make sure everybody understands the difference between that application versus the May 22nd.
Good point. Perfect. Katie, final thoughts.
Nothing specific to add other than to reinforce what Erin said so well, is, you know, that NMTD can't award if you don't request it. And so even though there is so much uncertainty right now, I would encourage everyone to really think long term, take advantage of the media consult so that the team can work with you to plan your best foot forward when we're ready for recovery. And we're here to partner with you in that. So let us know how we can help.
You all make my job so easy. You've said it all. And anything I say would be more repetitious at this point. So really good points. And in the final analysis, top of mind comments from all of you, I think really helpful. And I hope our audience has found them helpful. We are coming to the end of our time together, so please submit any lingering questions you have to me at coop.marketing@state.nm.us. That email address, along with everything else you need to apply for Google DMO and co-op marketing, is located at nmtruecoop.org. We'll have these FAQs posted there by the end of the week. Thank you all very much for your time this morning, for your attendance, your participation. We value your partnership very much. We're here to support you now and always, and we wish everyone a safe, healthy, good week working from home. That's it. Take care. Bye, everybody.